There's a common perception of intimate partner violence that it is a form of patriarchal domination. The idea is that intimate partner violence is a tool used or almost used exclusively or almost exclusively by men to exert control over women. And this leads to a highly gendered conception of intimate partner violence. As two researchers put it in a paper, we use gender specific terms because battering is not a gender neutral issue. So that's a common perception. It's one held even by some of the researchers. But that perception of intimate partner violence as being primarily or exclusively patriarchal domination of men over women doesn't explain several important features of the data. First, it doesn't explain intimate partner violence in same-sex relationships. And here's data from the Centers for Disease Control on the level of interpersonal violence in same-sex relationships. On this chart, we have the frequency of intimate partner violence for lesbian women as opposed to heterosexual women. And you will see that in every case, the frequency of violence for lesbian women is higher than that of heterosexual women. This next chart shows the frequency of intimate partner violence in gay relationships versus heterosexual relationships for men. And here again, you see that it is significantly, in this case, more prevalent among gay men than heterosexual men. So if intimate partner violence is really primarily about male domination over women, it doesn't explain what's going on in homosexual relationships. But it also doesn't explain intimate partner violence by women of men. And the CDC doesn't currently report the sex of the perpetrator of intimate partner violence, but it reports that prior findings have indicated that most female victims, and the statistic there is 97.1%, report male perpetrators. And most male victims, and there the statistics 96.9%, report female perpetrators. What this means is that we can make a good estimate of the sex of the perpetrator based on the sex of the victim. And so looking at the data from the Centers for Disease Control on the likelihood of a person experiencing sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking, comparing men and women, we can make an estimate of how frequently the perpetrators are male or female. So in this first slide, we see that the lifetime expectancy of a woman experiencing sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking is 47.3%. The likelihood of experiencing it in the last 12 months is 7.3%. This next slide shows the likelihood for men. For the likelihood of a man experiencing sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking is 44.2% in the lifetime. And in the last 12 months, it's 6.8%. Now, those charts are complex with a lot of data in them, so let's just simplify and look here, combining the frequency of victimization of each sex with previous data on the frequency of the perpetrator, that the perpetrator was of the opposite sex, we have these results. Female victims and male perpetrators in lifetime, we expect 45.9% of women to experience that. And in a 12-month period, 7.3% of women will experience such intimate partner violence by a male perpetrator. Male victims and female perpetrators in the lifetime, we expect 42.9% of men to experience this, and in a 12-month period, 6.5% of women. So there's a slightly higher likelihood that women will experience violence from a male partner, but it's not nearly as high as many people would assume.